Good evening, we are from Ukraine. In the midst of fighting Russian propaganda, I forget to give you the good news. Here is the information for the 26th of March. Then Russia launched 70 missiles in Ukraine. This is bad. But 62 missiles were shot down by Ukrainian air defense, which, according to a report by Russian military commander Gerasimov and Russian defense minister Shoigu, was suppressed in the early days of the war. The total cost of the missiles is $340 million. Taking into account delivery to the launch site and salaries to Russian taxpayers, this salute cost $500 million. And somewhere in Ukraine there are still 140,000 Russian soldiers and military equipment that has not yet been burned. This equipment is being destroyed little by little, and besides, it needs to be refueled every day and often repaired, because it is Russian, and therefore worse than Soviet.
How often does the equipment of the Second Army of the World break down? Quite often. How many tanks do you have in a column? I have 10 tanks. Have all 10 tanks arrived? No. How many did not arrive? 8. How long did you travel around Ukraine? 3 days. And in 3 days, without engaging in battle, you lost 8 vehicles. Yes. How far have you traveled? 120 kilometers.
Now I want to appeal to the 74% of Russians who support an attack on Ukraine. Exactly 33 days your mighty army attacked the city of Irpin. And finally, it was liberated by Ukrainian troops. I'm not wrong. In Irpin, the last Russian soldier is destroyed. Unfortunately, after the arrival and departure of the Russian world, little remains of the beautiful resort suburb of Kiev. Nevertheless, every Russian can check the fact that Irpin was freed from the Russians. All this became possible thanks to the mobility and motivation of the Ukrainian army. And also thanks to Western weapons. The USSR, which finally got out of the coffin and now creaks with rusty remnants of Soviet weapons, still has a lot of tanks. But the United States produces 6,500 anti-tank missile systems a year. And they have not yet switched to work in 3 shifts. Before the sanctions, Russia was capable of producing about 90 tanks a year. The following year, they plan to transfer only 40 tanks to the Russian army, but this will no longer work. We have already talked about aircraft. The plans were to build 12, but these are already unrealistic plans. Russia still has a lot of armored vehicles. Even if only 20% starts, it will be a lot. That is why our partners are trying to increase the supply of Javelin and Stinger to 500 a day. Javelin, Stinger, and similar systems. There are many modern missiles in the world, and now these weapons are being delivered to Ukraine. It is important that we do not have any centralized warehouses. All this is a myth of Russian propaganda. This is pure network marketing like Amway and Oriflame. This is the war strategy of the 21st century. According to the Ministry of Defense, at least 500 Russian soldiers are put out of action every day in Ukraine. But the troops of Ukraine are taking on heightened militaristic obligations. Let there be 1,500 people. War is not only the heroism of soldiers and the strategic genius of generals. War is logistics and economics. A Russian tank costs $3,700,000 without a crew, ammunition, and fuel. One Javelin costs $78,000. The Swedish NLAW costs $40,000. And in 10 minutes even a teenager can use it. This is a very simple disposable weapon. According to some reports, Russia is now spending $2 billion a day on the war. It is impossible to check this. Ukraine also spends and loses. But behind us are NATO countries and the European Union. 141 countries supported Ukraine at the UN General Assembly. Obviously, the stocks of missiles in Russia are limited. And it is impossible to resume the production of many types of weapons without Western components. Unfortunately, we are playing chess with an idiot who has 150 pieces and an atomic bomb. But the collapse of Russia is inevitable, and Russia itself agrees with this. My colleague Denis Kazansky posted a great propaganda video in which the Russians themselves described why they shouldn't invade Ukraine.
Putin, bring in the troops. How often do you use this hashtag? If you want to draw Russia into the war, answer for yourself. Are you ready to watch this war without looking at the monitor, but with your own eyes, sitting in a trench? Do you think it won't come to that? You're wrong. To provoke the entry of Russian troops into Ukraine is the most important task for the United States. One of the goals of the United States is to blame the collapse of the Ukrainian economy on Russia. Let's be real, Ukraine will not be accepted into the EU, and IMF loans will not help the economy recover. But as soon as our army enters Ukraine, Russia can be blamed for all the troubles of the Ukrainian people. After all, it is because of Russia that they stopped paying pensions and benefits. Because of Russia, the entire industry has been destroyed. It was Russia that took away the European dream from Ukrainians. Of course, you can fulfill the requirements of the couch generals and send in troops. But what will it look like for the world community when Russia sends troops without a UN resolution to the territory of independent Ukraine? The government of Ukraine does not ask Russia about this, and the government that asks is not recognized by anyone. It will be called in one word, aggression. And the Western world is against the aggressor. Will Russia's allies support the aggressor? Even if we just introduce a no-fly zone over the southeast of Ukraine, the Americans and NATO can introduce a no-fly zone already for our aircraft and missiles. What if they shoot down a Russian plane? How to react to it? Throw tank columns to the English Channel, start a war with all of Europe and the States and Australia. After all, this is exactly what the United States wants. America is choking on a colossal national debt that exceeds $17 trillion.
The video was filmed in 2014. Since then, the leadership of the Russian Federation has greatly degraded and began to look more and more ridiculous with its demilitarization. Some high-ranking officials are already imagining vodka even in an antiseptic. For a Russian person, vodka is always a way out, but in front of you is Vladimir Medinsky, assistant to the president of Russia. Schmuck, who was born in the Ukrainian city of Smela. Today he is called the ideologist of the Russian world and the doctrine according to which an empire is impossible without Ukraine. Well, son, did the Russians help you? And now a flashback especially for the chipmunk people, for whom every day is like Groundhog Day. I remind you that at first there was an operation, Mongoose Jump, which did not calculate the strength and did not jump to the bowl of food. But for a while, you find the strength to deny that the plan failed. After another 3 weeks, you start trading on denazification. In 4 weeks, your economy goes into a depression. And point number 5. A month later, from wannabe winners, you turn into a chipmunk people and start collecting roots. I see it that way. There is some pretty funny news as well. Italy offered to become the guarantor of Ukraine's security. And that's great. Finally, the Ukrainian military will receive uniforms from Prada and high-quality coffee machines. Ferrari cars will be the perfect bait for Kadyrov's TikTok warriors. It will be wonderful. Almost as beautiful as the Lancia rocket launcher. You use one, you fix the other. This is a joke of my friend Vsevolod. He works with the Italians. Of course, this is a friendly joke. We are very grateful to the Italian people and government for hosting refugees, for sanctions, for financial assistance and for offering to become a guarantor of Ukraine's security. And, as the Ukrainian saying goes, together it's easier to kill a monster. Welcome to Ukraine. And now the answer to the question of when the war will end. The Ukrainian question is already in April. This is my personal opinion. Putin has a very wide range of options. Mobilization of troops and a new attack. Delivering a tactical nuclear strike or signing a shameful peace that will have to be sold to the Russians as a great fateful victory over Nazism and NATO. The 9th of May parade is inevitable. The unity of the empire is built on it. Even if conscripts with torn off legs on burned tanks pass through Red Square, Putin will do it. Putin needs at least some kind of victory. He cannot start the parade with the phrase, "We can repeat," if the whole country understands that he was sucked hard. The empire lives on grandeur, the empire lives on myths and legends. It can survive hunger, cold, poverty, but no empire has yet experienced national disgrace without revolution and riots. There is no greater horror for the imperial than trampled greatness. Now someone will definitely ask, where are the facts? Dude, they are common. In the history of so-called modern Russia, there were 3 small victorious wars. All 3 were miserably lost. This is the Russo-Japanese War, when Russian soldiers were supposed to throw hats on stunted Japanese. But as a result, a grandiose defeat at sea and a song about the cruiser Varyak. Then the attack on Finland. The war, by the way, lasted 4 months. The USSR did not fulfill a single military task. But he captured 11% of the territory of Finland. And now a short quote about the course of hostilities. I revealed serious gaps in the organization of command and control and supply of the Red Army troops, as well as the poor preparedness of the command staff. Doesn't this remind you of anything? By the way, it was the Finns who invented the incendiary mixture, which they called the cocktail for Molotov, not the Molotov cocktail. There is even such a Finnish song.
No hammers. No hammers.
The Third War was in Afghanistan. Everyone knows about it, it killed USSR. But this is the problem of the empire. Any outcome of the war without the complete capture of Ukraine for Putin is a defeat. Okeller missed. His days are numbered. But many fools do not understand this yet.
This country should not exist. And we will do everything it ceased to exist. And I told you, we will burn your constitution right on Krещатик. And I will go there myself. I promised you that I would personally attend the burning of your shit constitution right on Independence Square.
Приезжайте, блядь, я слабо, тем не вырос, блядь. Вы, сука, все уже сидите, блядь, кто в Чехии, кто, блядь, в Германии, кто мне это говорил. Вот я, блядь, вам говорю, я, блядь, лично буду присутствовать на сожжении вашей говняной, так называемой Конституции прямо, блядь, на Майдане Незалежности.
Another round of negotiations with the Russian Federation took place today. We heard the position of Ukraine, and at the time of filming the video, it is not yet clear how Russia will respond. There is still the possibility that the talks are just a smokescreen for the Russians. And that Putin is preparing for a decisive attack, because even during the negotiations, the fighting did not stop and rocket attacks continue. Although, according to Russian negotiators, Russia has decided to reduce hostilities in the Kiev and Chernigov directions in order to create, as they say, an atmosphere of trust for negotiations. 2 Iskander missiles, which at that time destroyed a street in a village near the city of Brovary, of course, do not count. Therefore, I will repeat my prediction again. The war is likely to last until May, and then we'll see. And at the request of the viewers, news about the king of TikTok, the dragon slayer, and the thief of the generals' cars Ramzan Kadyrov. As the head of Chechnya claims he is leading the attack on Mariupol, the Russian telegram channel Troika posted a photo of Kadyrov at a Rosneft gas station in Russia. He is posing there with a machine gun. In place of the leadership of Rosneft, I would check if the fuel trucks are in place.
На цьому все. Російська Федерація буде зруйнована. Перемога буде за нами. Слава Україні!
An attack was being prepared on Belarus, and if only 6 hours before the operation.
Превентивный удар по позиции, или позиция, сейчас покажу, как это его.